The music that actually gets synced for thousands of dollars isn't the best music, it's the most useful. And after 7 years of constant pitching, I finally ended up landing a 5-figure Netflix placement. And honestly, it wasn't my most polished track by any means. Missing what supervisors actually want could cost you thousands of potential deals. So in this video, I'll reveal exactly the 3 things that made all the difference for that music to be used on this movie and how you can use them to finally get your music synced. The music supervisor for the placement told me the reason that track worked was because there was enough space for the dialogue and story to be played out. Most submissions normally fight the scene instead of actually supporting it. And this is reasonable because most producers think that the more layers that they have, the more impressive the music sounds. But in sync, it's normally the opposite. I used to layer everything, multiple synths, stacked vocals, intricate layers of percussion moving all at the same time, thinking that it showed skill, but actually it made my tracks way less usable. By the time the dialogue comes in, all those layers just become mud in the way. Your music isn't the star, it's always a support. It's built to help tell a story or sell a product, period. Not to showcase your production skills. And you see this in pop music too. Most people always complain that it's so simple, but it's a reason for it. It's easy to access. So 3 ways to actually simplify your music without sounding empty or dull. First thing, you're gonna pick one hero element per section, maybe a memorable guitar riff or possibly a vocal melody, something that does not compete with other things vying for attention. The best way to describe it is like trying to listen to 3 different people tell you really important information at the same time. Your brain can kind of process it, but it won't remember anything. Second thing, you want to make sure you leave enough space for the dialogue. If you got different sonic elements in the mid-frequency range where the human voice lives, you got to make enough room for the dialogue to breathe. So I would either space it out to the high frequencies or the mid-lows. Third, you also have to think in sections. Start minimal, build to a chorus, and then strip back down. If we have natural ebb and flow of energy inside of a song, makes it way more dynamically pleasing, and it helps with editors to find spaces that they can chop and use inside their project that they're working on at that time. The track that got used in the Netflix movie had drums, bass, and like a really cool string melody. That was it. And by the way, that same music supervisor actually listened to tracks in our private community, the Sync Alliance, and gave members direct feedback on what works and what doesn't based on the things I'm telling you now. It's really eye-opening to hear these kinds of insights straight from the decision makers that work for places like Marvel, Tyler Perry Studios, all kinds of different places. We took all that feedback from the last couple of years of having these special guests come in and made a easy, free, sync-ready checklist that helps cover everything that producers and music artists need to know when it comes to evaluating their songs for sync. If you hit all the marks in this document, you're pretty much ready to start pitching. It's a free PDF in the description below and is what we use in our community as industry pros every single day. But even the simplest, most beautiful song will get rejected immediately if there's one specific red flag that's involved. And it's killed more sync deals than bad music ever could. Working with this Netflix supervisor opened my eyes to something that most producers normally don't see. Companies don't just trust your word about ownership, they investigate everything because one lawsuit can ruin the whole company. Even when you control 100% of the rights, companies will still do their own musicology reports to double check to make sure. I learned this in the most terrifying way possible because I almost lost a $20,000 placement. The company's report came back as questionable on a track that I sent them for a custom project. And I was sitting there sweating, knowing like I created everything myself, but suddenly I had to prove it. So it took 3 days of emailing back and forth, sending session files, explaining every single element in that section of the song. The stress during this time period was unreal because I was literally watching in real time a potential sync placement slip away from my fingers due to a question mark. And that experience taught me what can go wrong. So here's a bulletproof clearance checklist for you. Step 1, make sure you audit everything that you didn't create yourself. Vocal chops, instrument loops, even if it says royalty-free melodies from a sample pack, if you didn't play it or sing it yourself, that's a red flag waiting to happen. And that goes for AI generated content as well. Second, get split sheet signed before the track is actually finished. That co-writer who doesn't care about the paperwork or whatever, they'll care when the money gets involved. So make sure you can handle that first and foremost. Third, when in doubt, replay it yourself. If you love a really cool guitar loop, learn it and record it because it's going to A, make you a better musician / producer anyway, and B, now you don't have to worry about legal trouble. The song that actually got used in this Netflix movie was 100% original. There were no samples involved. There was a few code writers, but we were all there and we actually signed stuff before we started writing, which is the smartest thing to do. No questions needed. But even with bulletproof clearance and like simple melodies and things of that nature, most songs still get rejected because they're impossible to edit. And this mistake is, again, costing producers thousands of dollars in placements every single day. I remember the first time I actually got a chance to talk to a music supervisor and they actually wanted to use a track of mine. And they emailed me a couple times asking for a 30-second version for a commercial. The problem was I was on the road and I couldn't actually get back to my studio for a couple days. By the time I actually got back home to get edits sent over to them, they already picked somebody else's music. And that's when it hit me. If your track isn't chopped up and ready to be delivered fast, you're not just missing out on this placement, you're not even in the running. And it affects you in the future as well because the instant thought is that this person is never prepared because the industry runs on very strict deadlines. Most producers and indie artists create songs like sculptures, these beautiful, flowing pieces with every element that connects to the next. But see, music supervisors don't want sculptures. They want Lego blocks. Think about it. With Lego blocks, you can build a house, you can take it apart, you can use those same pieces to build a car, take them apart again, build a spaceship. Each block works on its own, but they also connect perfectly with one another. That's exactly what a music supervisor needs from our music. And the more moments we can fit into one song, the more options they'll be able to use, and raises your chances of getting a sync placement. If they need a 30-second version for a commercial, a 15 for social media, or maybe they just need an intro for a scene transition, and maybe sometimes they just want to take a section and loop it themselves with just the chorus. If you give them these kinds of options, you'll always win. Because if your track is doing the opposite and just it's one continuous build or loop with endless reverb tails and things of that nature, you've actually made their job impossible to actually do. And it's way easier to just pick another song. And don't get me wrong, I totally understand. And I used to be that guy where it's like, yo, you can't actually cut right here in the song because it'll ruin the flow. But meanwhile, other producers were getting placements just because their tracks were built in a way that it was ready to be edited from day one. So things to make your tracks editor friendly. First, you really want to build edit points. So add a beat of silence before the chorus actually hits. Create natural breathing spots where an editor can kind of jump in and out without making the whole song sound really jarring. If you do these kinds of things, when they have another project, they'll be looking for your name because they felt like your product was basically easier to work with. Second, you need to work in multiples of 4, 8, or 16. Editors normally think in these kinds of increments because that's how their software actually works. It's very similar to a DAW. And if your sections are any odd number or something weird like that, it just makes their life harder, so don't do that. So there's your roadmap to make music that gets placements on Netflix and other major shows worth thousands of dollars. And there's like 7 more of these things that we have down in the description if you want to check that out. It's free. But here's what most producers still miss. Even when their track is basically built for sync, they're still getting rejected because they don't actually know how to read what music supervisors are actually asking for. They're missing the hidden signals that determine exactly which tracks get chosen and which get ignored. So in this video, I'll show you how to decode any type of sync brief that comes across your desk and spot the hints that supervisors use to filter through tracks so you can start landing placements.